It's okay. Honorable members of CMA profession, President of ICMAB and the members of the council, I request all of you to the today's program, the training program on practicing transformational leadership at workplace. You'll be happy to know that today we have two distinguished persons present here. Mr. Imran Karim, Group Managing Director, Confidence Group. He is here as a chief guest of the program. And Mr. John Dalton, Management Consultant. He is here as a resource person. So at the very beginning, I will request our President, along with the Chairman Training Committee, the resource person, the chief guest, as well as the other related persons like our Secretary of ICMAB, Mr. M.D. Abdul Rahman Khan, please come to the dais and take seats. Thank you, sir. This program is related to the ICMA's members' capacity development, and that has been considered as one of the prime agenda of the present president of ICMAB. So now I want to request Ms. Moutushi to come here to greet our chief guest of the program. Ms. Moutushi, the chief guest of the program, Mr. Imran Karim, Group Managing Director, Confidence Group. And now I request Saima Lima to come over here to greet the resource person, Mr. John Dalton, with a flower bouquet. Now, Tilawat Quran. I request Maulana Shafiqul Islam to come over here for Tilawat Quran. Please, Maulana Shafiqul Islam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الرحمن الرحيم صدق الله مولانا العظيم আমি আপনাদের সামনে সূরাত হাশর থেকে কয়েকটি আয়াত তিলাওয়াত করেছি। এর মাঝে আল্লাহ তাআলা হুজুর সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লামকে ইরশাদ করে বলেন, আমি যদি এই কোরআনকে পাহাড়ের উপর অবতীর্ণ করতাম তাহলে আপনি দেখতেন যে পাহাড় আল্লাহর ভয়ে বিনীত হয়ে বিদীর্ণ হয়ে গেছে। আর আমি এই দৃষ্টান্ত মানুষের জন্য বর্ণনা করি যাতে করে তারা চিন্তা ভাবনা করতে পারে। আল্লাহ রাব্বুল আলামিন আমাদের সকলকে কোরআনের মর্যাদা বুঝে আমাদের জীবনে কোরআনের শাসনকে বাস্তবায়ন করার তৌফিক দান করুন, আমিন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু।
Thank you very much, Maulana Shafiqul Islam. Now I request the past president of ICMAB, Mr. Mohammad Salim, FCMA, the chairman of training committee ICMAB, to give a welcome address. Mr. Mohammad Salim, FCMA.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected chief guest, Mr. Imran Karim, Group Managing Director of Confidence Group, President of ICMAB, Mr. Arif Khan, FCMA, Secretary of ICMAB, Mr. Abdur Rahman Khan, our today's learned resource person, Mr. John Dalton, my dear members of the institute, my dear senior students of the institute, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you all to this training program on practicing transformational leadership at workplace. We all are professional cost and management accountants working in different organizations as business leaders. I think today's topic has rightly chosen. Leadership is a very vast subject. There are a lot of theories, styles, techniques and strategies are associated with the leadership management. But today we will discuss on a very specific issue, that is transformational leadership. I believe that management accountants are playing very vital role in any organization in terms of decision making. Learning from transformational leadership, we must be act proactive role rather than responsive approach in the decision making process. We must take care our followers from our heart, but not by rules or framework. We have to motivate the followers to act beyond the framework to enhance the performance of the followers as well as the organizations. We have to come out from transactional leadership approach to transformational leadership approach to achieve the long-term goal of the organization. We will learn about this interesting topic from our today's learned resource person, Mr. John Dalton. I welcome our today's chief guest, Mr. Imran Karim, Group Managing Director of Confidence Group. Mr. Imran Karim is a Group Managing Director of the Confidence Group, completed His Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering with honors and Bachelor of Arts in Economics with honors from University of Rochester, Newark. And was among the WHO of United States. We know that WHO is an organization that comprises of top 0.5% students among 2,500 universities of USA. Confidence Group, we know this is one of the biggest group in the country, and you know that you will be happy to know that Confidence Group is a strategic partner of ICMAB. We have signed a MOU with Confidence Group in 2014, and we are working with Confidence Group, and I am delighted and very happy to take the special initiative by Mr. Imran Karim to sign the MOU with ICMAB. And you know that after signing the MOU, there are a lot of members recruited by the Confidence Group, and a lot of our students are also working in the Confidence Group. So from the institute, my heartfelt thanks, Mr. Karim, and we know that is a Confidence Group is a emerging organizations in the country, and it is you are expanding a lot in your many the sectors. So we know that we are producing the very talented and quality CMS, and we up to date our members in any topics, and who can fit themselves in any changing environment, in business environment. So my request, if you need more CMS, we can supply the quality members and students to your organization like the past. Thank you very much, Mr. Karim.
Thank you, Mohammad Salim, past president of ICMAB. Now I request our president, Mr. Mohammad Arif Khan, FCMA, CFA, just to come and give his address before the audience.
Yeah.
Mr. Arif Khan, FCMA.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, the resource person, past president of ICMAB, my colleague Secretary Mr. Abdur Rahman Khan, senior fellow members of the institute and associate member of the institutes, and other people who are in front of me in the audience. Assalamu alaikum and very good evening. It's actually a very happy moment for me today, because when I am standing here, this is the first time when we have organized this kind of training program, and which is being directly telecasted to all over the world, because anybody, any member from today can click to the website and can see this presentation online. So we have organized this for the first time. We thought that we have got 1,300 members, but whenever we go for a program like this, maximum 200 members can come here. Many of them may not join because of other preoccupation. So we thought that how can we engage our members together. So in Chittagong and in Khulna, there is a screen, and our members are sitting there and watching my speech, and they will have the option to even go for asking question to the resource person. So that's I think that's kind of our commitment, that we'll go for more digitization so that we can engage our members even more in the coming days. To the resource person and chief guest, I would like to say something about our profession. I know Mr. Imran Karim, that he is running a very big company. I was just talking to him. His annual turnover will be more than $300 million, and 4,500 plus people are working in his group. So it's a really big group. It's not emerging. It's already emerged, and we know that they have got even more potentials to grow further. I'm really, really happy that he has made his time to come here. He had some other engagement, and we have requested him just to be with the professional members here today, and he agreed with us. And Mr. John Dalton, when I met him first time 2 weeks back from Mr. Muni's connection, we met in Gloria Jeans in Gulshan and had some brief chat. I learned about his experience. He's a very high caliber international management consultant, and if you can read his bio, you can see that he worked for many international like KPMG or Price Waterhouse Coopers and many other continent he worked. And when I was discussing with him, he said that I love this country. I want to stay in this country more and take part in the development of this country. And I was really very happy from a person like him who believe in Bangladesh potential. So I'm always an optimistic person. For the last 5 to 7 years time, whenever there is a presentation in different parts of the country and international seminars, I always talked about what Bangladesh can produce. And we all know that now everybody in the world is talking about Bangladesh. And every presentation I will touch this point because that will encourage, motivate all of us to grow, to learn more, to enhance our capacity through this kind of program, because we know that a bright, better Bangladesh future is coming in the road. And very latest report from Boston Consulting Group, few years back, from Goldman Sachs, from HSBC, from Citibank, from Standard Chartered, everybody is telling that Bangladesh is in the taking off stage. Just World Bank chief economist a few months back mentioned that we are possibly in a taking off stage. Bangladesh growth rate can be 7-8% in the next couple of years' time. Our per capita income from $1,300 may exceed $2,000 in 5 to 6 years' time, and there is a huge consumer group is coming up. That means that more business will be coming in this country, and if there is more business, we will need more professional people like CMS. And if we want to engage in business, we need to continuously upgrade our competencies. There is no way that we can say that we become a CMA, cost and management accountant, and from today we will not learn anything. If we choose that, we will perish. The only permanent thing in this world now is change. So the more change we encounter, we embrace, the more we know and more competent we become. So in that context, we have taken this kind of training program. This year, we will take series of training programs, especially on different issues, especially on income tax, VAT, IFRS, and cost audit, and many other issues on professional opportunity for CMS. I'm sure that every month you will see 1 or 2 programs like this in different capacities, and we have decided in every program we'll try to engage some government people, ministers, regulators, corporate world people, or the academicians or experts, so that they all come to ICMAB and get to know our profession more. I'm sure that you will see more development in this area in the coming days. Just other day I mentioned in one of my speeches that the Nokia CEO 2 months back stepped down as a CEO, and he was on his last meeting he was kind of crying, and he said that we had the best management team, we did everything right in our business, but we don't know, somehow we lost the game, because Apple and Samsung actually driven out Nokia, who was the major producer of this handset. But what happened to Nokia? Because they were kind of too much complacent. They thought that they are the biggest. They had 80% market share, so no one can beat them, and they were kind of close to welcome the change. And they were not looking into what was happening to other part of the world. What Steve Jobs were doing in North America, they were possibly ignoring that. So from that speech, I also once again learned that without change, without every day we learn new things, we cannot grow. So I'm sure that these training programs will give us new perspective. I just give you one last thing that is important from our side, that we will have a professional discussion next month in April. I will announce the date, and I'm sure that in that professional discussion program we will make a presentation that what current council has done in the last 2 years' time and what is our vision for 2016. I will personally make a presentation on that day about what we want to achieve in 2016. On that day, I will invite all of you to come in this dais and take part in the discussion, so that we can gradually change ourselves to become the best professional group in this country, in terms of our capacity, in terms of our delivery to the government. You have seen the last 2 years how our past presidents in this council worked to implement the Financial Reporting Act, to change the infrastructure of ICMAB, to change the syllabus, to change the curriculum. I think there is change in every place. You look into the library, look into the digitization process. Everywhere we have initiated change, and I'm sure by the end of 2016, this will be a new CMA face altogether, and we will work even more to enhance the brand image of the CMA. With these few words, I thank you once again for taking your time to listen to me, and also to share your valuable time to listen to these experts in this dais sitting. Thank you very much for giving me patient hearing. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now, it is the time for our, our presenter, the resource person, John Dalton. Already you have the script with you. He's an international management consultant and a seasoned professional strategist, project leader, team builder, and motivational trainer who has worked to improve the development outcome across the challenging areas in Africa, Middle East, and Asia. Now I invite him to come to the dais and present his paper on practicing transformational leadership at workplace. In this context, I want to quote from Bob Kennedy that people see things as they are and say why. I see things as they never were and say why not. Now I am requesting John Dalton to present his paper. Mr. John Dalton.
Assalamu alaikum. We're going to wait a little bit until that screen drops so I can give you just a little bit more of my background. Usually the joke is, I'm very happy to be here, and then I say, at my age, I'm happy to be anywhere. But I'm very pleased to be here tonight with you to try to talk about this very interesting topic because I believe that transformational leadership and people who are engaged in transformation, as your president has indicated, are really the way forward for Bangladesh, because it will enable all of you, some of you young people here, to be more active, engaged participants in the economy. And so I look forward to sort of talking to you about this tonight. Okay, so we're good to go. I want to talk a little bit about leadership, because leadership is one of those topics which has intrigued researchers and academics for a long time and people in the business community. I mean, just what exactly is leadership? How do people become leaders? What are the traits of a leader? How do people learn how to lead? So this whole process of learning how to be a leader, really the leadership is the quality of assuming responsibility on behalf of a group of people for the success or failure of a venture, where the result is known, but no one quite knows how to get there. And so the pathway forward is what the leader tries to construct through a strategy and through a clear plan of action to enable the group to move forward. In addition, when I talk about tonight transformational leadership, what I'm really talking about, and I thank very much our past president here for bringing out the fact that it's about caring for people, because transformational leadership is the process of committing yourself, me committing myself, or you committing yourself as a senior executive in a business or somebody who's working on an international project, committing yourself to enable other people to grow to their full potential. And it's establishing within each of them and with each of them sort of a social contract where a caring relationship is based on trust and respect so that they become engaged in the same endeavor with me. When I start working on a project, I want to make sure that people understand that each one of those individuals is part of my family. Each one of those individuals is somebody I want to develop, someone I want to see succeed, and someone to whom I will allocate enormous responsibility and give them the resources they need and then stand back and watch them grow. That's part of being a transformational leader. But the evolution of leadership theory, if you will, has been going on for a long time. And people basically couldn't quite figure out what made a leader. So they said, well, let's look at some of the people in history. These are great people, great men. They must be leaders. There must be something about them. There is the great man who will be able to take on responsibility to be a leader. Then people began to say, well, it wasn't just a great man. People are born with certain traits. It was a sort of an elitist approach to leadership. But people believe that if you were born in a certain family with a certain amount wealth or in a certain kind of power, that you automatically had the traits that were necessary to be a leader. That proved to be totally incorrect, of course. Then there were those people that said, no, it's all about people who have charisma, that can attract other people to follow them. It's those characteristics of being sort of an undefined quality of leadership, where charisma alone is what makes people want to join with you. But then finally, when all of the management theorists began to look at leadership, they thought, that's okay, welcome. They thought essentially that the best way to define a leader and his followers was to talk of it in terms of a transaction. And leaders basically offer something to somebody in exchange for their work, and they have this sort of transaction. Buy, sell, give, take, you do, I do. That became sort of the standard methodology. It became particularly apparent in American businesses in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s. This was all about, I'm the boss, you work for me, I'll give you a salary, this is your job description, this is what we want you to do, you're there, I'm here. I'm the leader, you're the follower, this is the way we will have a transaction. And the whole relationship between individuals and their bosses was defined by that transaction. That, okay, you pay me, I'll do my job. I mean, you weren't necessarily identify with the company or identify with the project or identify with the organization and government that you worked for. You basically were there because you were being paid to be there. And that was fully satisfactory for you, but the progress that we now have seen over the last 20 years with technology companies whose management styles is totally different, who are engaged in transformation, the people in Silicon Valley, the people who are working all the time in collaborative settings, those people, that system of transformation, which was coming, not there yet, those people, those were the change agents for the world economy. But at least the transactional leadership style was the first time that people began to say that, well, you can't have a leader without followers. The great man theory, the person born to lead, the charismatic leader was always about those people. But in the transactional leadership style, basically it said leaders have followers, those followers are involved in the same venture, and that they are being paid for work, there's a quid pro quo. The transactional leader could find the right button. Now before I get on to transformational leadership, if you will, let me just say that every situation requires a different type of leadership. Every situation is not appropriate for transformational leadership. If you walk into a very successful company, if I walk into his company and he's asking me to take on a division that's been highly successful, it's making millions of dollars in profit every year, and I say, you know, I think I'd like to transform this place, I'll have a one-day job. Because transformational leadership is not the solution necessarily to every situation. You know, Ken Blanchard, who's a famous management guru, says very specifically that what you have to do is find the situation or act in the situation that you find in order to be able to apply the best management approach, the best management style. Now, some of you may read, well, there are managers that are autocratic, bureaucratic, systematic, automatic, whatever they are. You know, these are just like classifications. Transformational leadership is really about the competencies of the individual and the way he sees other people contributing to the end result. As I said before, all of these leadership styles differ from transformational leadership for the simple reason that they were a clear dividing line. That dividing line looks like this. There was the leader, and there were the followers. I mean, they were not engaged in a joint venture. They were working in the same company, but there was clearly a dividing line there that separated the leader from the followers. He was the boss. He made the policy. He made the decisions, allocated the resources. He hired, he fired, he decided when he was going on vacation, he decided when you were going on vacation. This was the model for the whole early management style. managers and leaders were separate from the workers behind them. Now, of course, education, both for all of you as for all the people in the United States and listening to the accomplishments of our special guest, okay, brings to mind the importance of education in requiring leaders to start thinking about engaging with those people who they share or with whom they share a responsibility. That educated mass, and I'm looking at all of you young people here who are starting out in your career and thinking about you're going to be engaged in this great institution. I mean, the opportunity of your education enables you to communicate, participate, and become involved with your managers in a process of transforming your organization. So finally, after additional research, people began to say, well, it's not just a great man, it's not just the people born into wealth, it's not people just who can master the give and take, the negotiation, okay, I'll give you this, you give me that. There was also a type of leader, a person who essentially was able to inspire people to engage in a collaborative venture based upon values, based upon trust and respect and integrity, in which the only promise, the only transaction that was made was not, I'll give you money and you do the job. The transaction was that if you join with me, I will sacrifice my leadership role, my authority, to you so that we can join together and achieve the success jointly. And transformational leaderships were easily identified. People like, for example, John Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela. People who were transformational on a societal level. And then you get people who are in companies, you know, I mean, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. These were transformational leaders because they engaged other people in the venture where they were working. This is what the transformational leadership pyramid began to look like. The leaders and followers were jointly engaged in trying to achieve the result. There was no dividing line. The leader sublimates his ego for the benefit of the whole venture. He's not above you. He's not different than you. He's not someone that just orders you around and you just simply are willing to accept. He wants you to be part of the venture and to be his equal in terms of the role you play in accomplishing results. Sure, he's the owner of the company. Sure, he's the leader. Sure, you give him respect. Sure, you want him to succeed. But that person now is willing to work with you in a much more transformed way to be able to jointly achieve this success. Now, just to show you a little bit of the difference, and I want to make sure I keep on my time here because I don't want to keep people too late, but I'd like to take 4 volunteers. I'd like to have a man and a woman, 2 men and 2 women. So you 2 women that brought up the flowers, you're the suckers, so I need you to come forward, to come with me. And I need 2 men, 2 relatively young men. I'll pick you. I need 2 men to come forward. Yeah, okay, come. There's 1 man. I need another relatively young man. We're going to talk a little bit, show a little bit about style. Okay? Okay, come on up. Okay, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. Okay, you're Jim. Your name is Jim? No, now it's Jim. You're Jim.
Hello.
Okay, so Jim, here's your script. When I ask you the question, you answer. It's your boss. Okay? So one of you ladies come here. You be with Jim. Come on, stand on this side. Just as an example of some of the differences of the way transformational managers work. Okay? Okay. Okay? You actually, the only role you have is doing exactly what you're doing now. Look great. Okay. Your only role is to look great, and you're doing it 100% successful. Congratulations. You have no speaking part. And you have no speaking part, but you look great. So you take this, and you take this. Now I'll ask you a question. Okay. You're Jim? You're Bob. Okay. Jim, this is the microphone.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Of course. Let's do it like this. Okay. Jim,
Uh,
I'm going to ask you the question first, then you give me the answer. Jim, who is that person with you?
uh,
No,
yes. Okay.
No. Read the answer, brother.
Oh, okay. This is my colleague. She works in the accounting department. So we work together on many projects.
Bob, who's that person with you?
A woman who works in my company.
Jim, what is her name?
Oh, her name is Ninisha Maksud, and she is our payroll clerk.
Jim, what's her
I
name?
don't know. I only deal with her supervisor. I assume he knows.
Has she been with the company for a long time?
Yeah, Ninisha just celebrated her 20th anniversary with the company. The accounting department organized a small party, and I went there to express my appreciation on behalf of all senior management.
Has she been with the company
Yeah.
for a long time?
I have no idea. A long time, I think.
Tell me, does she have a family?
Oh, yeah, she has 3 children. The eldest just graduated from Dhaka University and has applied to study abroad. Our college fund may give him a small scholarship.
How would I know?
How would I know?
Yeah.
Exactly. So what you see is 2 possible styles of management. Thank you very much. You're a very good actor, by the way. And that's,
Thank you very much.
you make a good...
Thank you.
Okay? And you both look great, and thank you very much as well. Okay? So what's the point of all of that? Okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate your participation. Thank you. I'll take this back from you. Okay? Okay. So what we saw was a clear example of the difference between this, when I say, does she have a family? And the manager says, or the leader says, how would I know? How would I know? Because he has no connection to that person. You know? What's her name? I don't know. She works in accounting. I'm sure her supervisor knows her name. Okay? Great. Yeah, okay, that's good. And has she been here a long time? I guess so. You know, she was here when my father came. So the other guy says, oh yeah, she's been here 20 years, and we just celebrated with a party where I attended to show my appreciation for her 20 years. Now, this was a transformational manager or a person with the seeds to be a transformational manager. The other gentleman is fairly traditional, old school, transactional manager who is somewhat separated from the individuals that he works with. That would not be a successful transformational leader because he was not prepared to engage with that woman in order for her to succeed as well. He knew nothing about her. How would I know? Okay. So I'd like to ask some Bangladeshi kind of questions. Just show of hands, please. How many of you have had the opportunity or maybe the challenge of working with what a transformational leader? Someone who engages you, someone's ahead of your department, he works with you, he knows your strengths, he plays to your strengths, he asks you, please, listen, I know you're a good writer. Would you help me with the annual report? Hey, I know that you're really very, very good at talking to groups. Would you be willing to represent the company when we go to this specific job fair? I mean, how many people here have had an opportunity to work with a transformational leader, a person who has engaged you? There's one. That's why he gave all the right answers. Yes, that's good. That's good. And of course, yes, of course. Okay? So some of you, that's great. That's great. And I think that I want to talk to you about some research that was done in Bangladesh about transformational leadership and about how companies work. Because I believe, as your president believes, that Bangladesh is poised for growth. I have had a resident permit in 10 countries. I've worked in 25 countries worldwide. I've been a resident living in a place, seeing the economy, working with people. And when I came here, it's totally exceeded my expectations. This This is a country with huge potential, great young people actively being educated engaged in the process, even when I go to places like Lahore, and I understand Lahore is online, Muni. Lahore is with us or not with us? Anyway, if they're here, Lahore, you're doing great as well. So, the question was asked, and I'll ask you also to think about this. This is research that was done by the university, and they asked people about the leadership, and they said, the employees said, about 700 sample, are suggestions from all leaders in your organization reviewed? Suggestions from all levels. In other words, is there favoritism or are people willing? And what percent, let me say to you, what percent would you say said no? That nobody, that these all levels were not being considered? Or does anybody want to volunteer a guess on a percentage? I'll tell you then. 54% people said that no, all levels in the organization were not being consulted when decisions were being made. Does your boss take your suggestions for solving problems? Only 28% of the employees that were surveyed agreed that the boss actually listened to what they had to say in terms of how to help the company grow and prosper. And is it true that you are discouraged because your suggestions were ignored? And a whopping 74% of the employees said, we're discouraged because the boss does not give us an ear to make our suggestions known, nor does he act upon them. Now, as I said, Bangladesh is poised for growth. You're a mass of educated professionals. You're going to have an enormous effect on companies, in government, in the military. This group will have an enormous effect on whether that economy grows and prospers at 7% or 5.5% or 8%. Those differences can mean the difference between 1 and 2 million jobs. So the transformational, you can become transformational followers as well as transformational leaders, as I will explain. But there wasn't all bad news, okay? Bangladeshi leaders in the same survey are appreciated by 70% of their employees. People understand the leaders are making tough decisions. They're on the line. They're trying to do their best. Young Bangladeshi leaders, people under 40 specifically, are seen as supportive of transformation and encouraging by 78% of their employees. That's an amazing accomplishment. That's a great symbol of what's happening in Bangladesh. 54% of employees have had some innovative idea recognized and applied by Bangladeshi leaders. The seeds for transformational leadership are there. And I think that this is a very, very healthy sign. Now, many of you say, well, cost and management accountants, we're down someplace, we have our own little thing to play. I want you to know that I believe that you can play a significant role in helping to transform the culture inside your organizations. Now, one of the things that, you know, that a transformational leader does, well, I think I'm a transformational leader, forgive me for saying that, but I've been in situations where I've walked in and tried to make things better for people and try to accomplish results. And so in some respects, I think that I try to be a transformational leader. I'll also be a transactional leader when it calls for that. I'm negotiating salaries with somebody. I'm also try to be a little charismatic from time to time, as the case may be, or autocratic if I have to be. But mostly I like to be a transformational leader because one of the things that I really want to make sure that I communicate to my employees is that when I say something, I'll do something. That's the definition of integrity. Some people confuse integrity with morality. That's not what it's all about. Integrity is being true to your word. Integrity is saying that these are the rules of the game, everybody plays by the same rules, and I will honor those rules. That's what is the most important characteristic of a leader, is having integrity. You have a code of ethics, you have a charter. If in every time you have a relationship you are true to those words, you have integrity, you have the one trait of a true leader. The first important trait is integrity. Other traits that I think are important to know about when we talk about transformation is that you have to have clear understanding of objectives, and allow people, you set the objectives and let people do it themselves their own way. You also have to have very clear communication. And you have to make people know that you're committed to them, that you want to train them, develop them, provide them, that they are a resource in the company. They're the lady that stayed 20 years and had a party in the accounting department because she was willing to stay with that company for 20 years. Her leader was a transformational leader. He was vested in her. And it creates a feeling of shared success and shared value. Now, one of the things that means is that in terms of integrity and equality and so forth, is that everybody in the organization has to feel a part of it. When people came to my project when I was working here, and we would have a meeting like this, but not so big, but maybe there were 25 people in the room, and the tea boy would come in with the tea and the cookies, and I would say to everybody, this is the most important guy in the organization. He was the tea boy. But every time I said that, he would smile and feel, I'm part of this organization. I'm the tea boy, but I belong to this organization. I make a contribution. I have a role. That's what it was. So when I am a transformational leader, and transformational leaders all have the same quality, they are both the servant leader. They work for and on behalf of the employee, on behalf of their team of colleagues. But more importantly, and sometimes very importantly, a transformational leader has to be a shield. He has to have the commitment to protect his employees from outside influences, outside pressure, unnecessary criticism. All of these factors, you have to be, if you want to be a transformational leader, you have to be willing to stand up for your employee and take the bullet. Take the shot. Take the criticism. Take the criticism. The board of directors say, you guys failed to meet this profit margin that we set for you, this target. What's going on? Now, you know very well what's going on, but you say, I think I failed. We'll do better next time. You don't say, Iqbal didn't do the things he's supposed to do down in Jashore, and therefore we screwed up. That's not a transformational leader. So, let me tell you about a real-world case. Mr. Mooney knows about this case. The reason I was invited is because Mr. Mooney kept saying to me, John, you're a transformational leader. I had the opportunity to practice this leadership style when I came here to lead a development project, which was called Accelerating Capacity for Monitoring and Evaluation, a USAID-funded project. Its responsibility, it's a project on projects. All the development projects were supervised by this ACME project. But when I took over a year ago, it was a very troubled project. There were no tangible results. There was poor, non-existent leadership, unhappy client, and bad mojo. By bad mojo, I mean that everybody was in their own little silo. There was no communication, no lateral communication, to the point where one day I had to get up from my desk and go and find that a person sitting here was sending a person sitting there an email. That person didn't say, we have to do this together. There was this complete siloization in the organization. So I forbade anybody, look, no more emails. If you have to talk to somebody, you get up and you talk to him as a colleague, as a co-professional. If you have information, you share with that person. And we began to break down these artificial barriers, these Chinese walls that were separating collegiality and collaboration and learning. We weren't learning anything because everybody had their own little bit of information and were just focusing on themselves. I could have been a transactional leader. I could have just cracked the whip and told people do it the right way. That was one possibility. Instead, what we decided to do was to say, let's organize around some important principles. We need core values. We need to adopt those core values. We need to make sure everybody in this project is committed to the same values. And without reading all of them to you, some of them were excellence, quality of service, accountability, accuracy, integrity, professionalism, innovation. We committed ourselves to being an organization with those characteristics. We had an aspirational vision. I tell people it's aspiration, inspiration, and perspiration because we really had to work hard to achieve it. But the fact was we had a vision for the first time. We clearly had a service-oriented mission and customer service charter which established the standards by which we would organize ourselves to interact with those other projects. The first time we put in place an organization structure which was based upon collaboration and joint learning. Our quarterly reports were assigned to people. I asked, the first thing I did when I came is say, Mooney, coordinate the inputs in all the quarterly report. You're responsible for giving me an example of quarterly report. The next quarter, somebody else took responsibility. But we engaged everybody in a process so that they felt equal. And when we had to, we put the pedal to the metal and accelerated the work on transformation. So transformation was about making people believe in this long-term vision, making people come together to make sure that everybody was focused on this end result, making sure that there were no barriers, no internal walls, things were working as they should. Some good, some bad. Did it work? Not so much. Some, that's what transformational is all about. Okay? What I found out is you can't transform one aspect of a whole company unless the whole company changes. That you transform that, but that's not going to be good enough. Also, what we had to do was that you had to know that what I found was that change was difficult. Some people move fast, some people don't move well at all. But also, practicing transformational leadership, practicing transformational leadership in the workplace is a very time-consuming job that requires your engagement all the time. And it can result in a lot of passive transformation. They'll simply say, okay, well, let John do it, or let my supervisor do it. So finally, how can you practice transformational leadership? Okay, well, I think you heard in my introduction, I work for KPMG. I was in the management consulting division of KPMG. I worked with many of the audit staff. We'd go to the field. Back in those days, there were no barriers, so that management consultants and accountants would go to the field to a client and work with that client jointly. It wasn't until Arthur Andersen had this conflict where there were certain barriers set up between the accounting profession and the management consulting profession. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers as a manager, working on information systems and developing organizational structures and capacity. So I think I can say that one of the things that all of you could do, no matter what level you are at, no matter how old you are, how much experience you have, there's something you can do to mentor younger staff, enable them to take the exam. If you've passed the exam or passed a portion of that exam, it's an opportunity for you to engage with your young staff and say, I can help you achieve the same kind of success that I have. You can also, in your own small unit, perhaps 2 or 3 people, perhaps 5 people or less, what you could do is sit down and say, let's figure out how we can do our job more efficiently. Let's do it faster and better because we'll be more responsive to the manager. We'll be more responsive to the board. We'll be able to give information more quickly so that the decisions are made on the basis of real information, real-time information. So we know what we do as accountants. We know what we have to do in terms of being able to advise management. Let's work together in order to be able to help senior management achieve its objectives. And let's tell them we'd like to do that and see if they will give us the authority to move on. You could also, and I don't know if there is such a thing, but I don't know if there is a group called the Young Cost Management Accountants Association. Young professionals joining together. We have these organizations throughout the world, but young professionals that get together to talk about how they can impact their companies and the overall economy. It's a very patriotic thing to do, for people to get together and say, we're young people, we're the future of Bangladesh, let's join together and define how we can transform the economy through simple steps. You could also make sure that you learn about integrity and other principles that can guide your career. Now, can you think of any other things that maybe one of you or some of you have thought about doing in your own company or would like to do in your own company? Anybody, a sucker out there, a volunteer that says, yeah, well, I tried to do this. Anybody want to say anything about how they are trying to work towards change? Thanks a lot. Come on, stand up, please. Want to come up? Can I have the mic, please? Got it? Okay. Yeah. Good. Thanks a lot. Your name?
Yeah, my name is Russell. Fortunately, I'm working in the confidence group, and I'm doing the same practice as working and discussing here. And I have learned from my boss, our MD sir is here. It's my pleasure and honor to everyone. So I'm telling you how I'm doing. I'm working in a transformer unit, so where I'm developing my process costing, and to be that, those are working in the operations, they are very busy with the operations. And they don't have time to put information time by time. So what I'm doing with them, I'm telling them one thing. Okay, bro, you are doing operation, but you are not producing your reports. That is your lacks. So if you do that, it will promote yourself and it will add value to yourself. And they are encouraged, okay? And I'm getting the feedback, right feedback from there. That's all about you. Thank you.
Well, that's okay. That's a good example. There must be others too, though. Anybody else here think about something that they're doing in their company or with their co-employees? It's transforming the way you do business, the way you think about things. Anybody here who's in IT? I can share something. Okay.
Yeah, I think what John has been mentioning, we have been exactly trying to follow this with my colleagues that, I have recently joined the private sector financial institutions, IDLC Finance. And when I sat with my management team and my all departmental or divisional heads, we in different groups, my first message to all of them is that we want to engage everybody in the game. Meaning that I mentioned to them, maybe I'm the CEO, but actually I will not do any business. Business will be done by my colleagues, and even the youngest of the young team members in IDLC, we said that you might have the best idea. So open up, share, even challenge the CEO and managing director. If you think that managing director is wrong, you tell it in my face that you are wrong. And I encourage everybody that you be part of the whole team, and everybody has the ability to change the course of this organization. And after that, in last 3 weeks' time, the whole team is now being so much charged, and every department heads who are operating on a silo basis, as you mentioned, they're all changing. Because as you said very rightly, that a leader has to be kind of a person who is even common man in the team. I mean, everybody should have trust and believe with the leader, and when they have this trust and believe and they share the same vision, and they know that their voice will be heard, at least discussed, no matter that everybody's opinion will be taken care of, but at least analyzed. So everybody feels that it is none of their own person's individual job, it is a teamwork. And I think that is that's my own experience in last 3 to 4 weeks time. I have seen that kind of a change in my organization. The entire mood is different now.
That's great. That's the key to transformation. What's the drill now? Do we have you ask a question, or how do we work next? What's the deal?
I should go up there and say a few things.
Well, no, you would. And then have a Q&A. After the chief guest speaks, have a Q&A. Okay. I just want to assure you just one thing. Last thing I want to say is transformational leadership is not as dangerous as it seems. This cover, I looked at it and said, well, that is a very challenging thing to do. But it's not. It'll benefit all of you. I hope that some of my remarks were useful to you. I hope you're encouraged, and I hope that you get the opportunity to practice in your own workplace some kind of transformation. I really want to thank the President, the Board, and Mooney, of course, for inviting me, and my deep appreciation to be here and to get some ideas about transformational leadership in the workplace. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, John, very much. I mean, what really these two people, like our president as well as the chief, our resource person, president in his speech he mentioned a very important word that is called change, and the leader of today's presentation, he said that is engagement. So in this context really I want to quote from on US management consultant, that is quote, "Don't walk in front of me, I may not lead. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Just walk beside me and be my friend." So with this statement, I request the Group Managing Director, Confidence Group, Mr. Imran Karim, the chief guest of today's program, to say something on this presentation. Mr. Imran Karim.
I don't think I'm qualified enough to actually say something on this presentation, but still I'll try. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Assalamu alaikum Salim bhai, Arif bhai, Dalton bhai, Abdul Rahman bhai, and all my friends here. We have had a very insightful presentation provided to us by Dalton bhai, and I was intrigued in the manner that he has spoken. It seemed to me that most of the time, I don't know, people get emotional, and it seems like he was talking about my company most of the time. I think it seemed there's a lot of similarity in the way that you have projected the information and the way that you have said how a company should perform or operate. Seem very similar to how we operate today. I will go a bit deeper into that. Arif has personally spoken that he requested me to say a bit about our company as to how we started and to where we are now and what kind of practices we follow. Before I go into that, just want to reiterate one more thing that Arif bhai may have missed out. Bangladesh is an opportunity. Of course, it's a large opportunity. The per capita numbers, the per capita GNIs and all these things will tell you a lot of things. Yes, $600 from 2009 to 2015, $1,300 almost. But one thing has significantly changed in this country, which is if you look at the age demographic of Bangladesh today, I think about 55% of the population is between the age of 15 to 55 or 45 or something like that. Exactly. So what has significantly changed is the income level of per household. There are at least more than one member in multiple households, most of the households in Bangladesh today. So disposable income in country has increased. That is why you see the service sector really booming. And I think within 2020, you will see this country becoming a $500 billion economy, and perhaps 2025, you will see a $1 trillion economy coming up. And we will need companies like us. We will perhaps hope to be in a different position. And at that time, as we do need now, more and more financial engineers, as I call them, not only financial analysts and stuff, they're financial engineers. And because the way we are conducting business now and the way we used to do it 5 years ago has changed. I'm sure it will change 5 years later and correspondingly every 5 years. How we raise our finances, how we manage our money, how to utilize our money, how to generate our returns on our investment and capital, those valuations, adequate knowledge, and movement towards that direction will take place. And we feel that ICMAB will have a significant role to play in that, and that is why Confidence has suitably taken partnership with ICMAB, and we hope that we can support you in generating the right kind of professionals with adequate qualifications and expertise for that time. But I would request you all, particularly the young guys here, always think outside the box. Never think within it. You will just limit yourself. Limitation of thinking is what you should never have. Profile of our group, just want to say we have 6 verticals of business today. We are essentially, our flagship company is Confidence Cement Limited, which is one of the largest cement companies in Chittagong division. We are in infrastructure. We manufacture a lot of products for power distribution, transmission, telecommunication, and roads and highways sector to cater their infrastructural growth. We are in paint manufacturing. We are the 2nd largest paint manufacturer in the country through Asian Paints Bangladesh Limited. We are in battery manufacturing. We are in telecommunication. We are also in power generation. All of these 6 verticals combined, we generate a revenue of about $325 million today and employ about 4,500 people. When I came into Bangladesh back in 2003, I was 24 at that time. The revenue of Confidence was about, I think, $20 million. If I'm not wrong, $20 million, yes. So we have done a lot in the last 12 years. But transformational leadership, as it was mentioned by Dalton bhai a little while ago, I think the transformational leader in our company was not me, but my father. At that point in time, see, the business at that point in time in Bangladesh was done in a manner which was very straightforward, like he has mentioned. Leadership, silo-wise, I am the leader, you are the follower, this is how you do it, that is how you do it, right or wrong, every time you get rebuked for anything that you do wrong. A guy coming into Bangladesh at the age of 24, yes, he had 2 degrees, what does it matter? But he allowed us and our other colleagues in our company at that point in time, we were a much smaller company than we are now, to think and to do things in our way. And that takes a lot of confidence. Identifying someone who can do something better than yourself and admitting to that and letting that person do something for you is something that requires courage, requires leadership, and that requires vision. And that is, I think, that is why confidence could be where they are, because of that simple change. Today we practice all of these things that was mentioned by Dalton bhai a little while ago. We have our annual business plans, we have quarterly reviews, actually we have monthly reviews. Everybody produces their own reports, like the gentleman a little while ago he mentioned. Unfortunately, I don't know his name. So I'm failing in that agenda. Honesty. So, I remember that he works for me, and I asked Salim bhai a little while ago, I think you have given me that person. And he has joined us, I think, about, 5 months ago? 6 months ago? 5-6 months ago, yes. So anyway, every business has a cost accountant in our, all of our verticals. He is the cost accountant for our infrastructure business. That much I know. So every time our group finance reconciles the information that they provide to generate, to understand the P&L, the CF, the BS, the balance sheet, not otherwise. So that is being reconciled every month or quarter. The practices of identifying what is your target and such is done every day. But these are numerical figures. Numerical figures are derived out of a vision. So I think, and to generate a vision, you need to have appropriate value sets. Just saying that I will be the best or I want to generate a number of such and such revenue is possible to achieve, but they'll be unsustainable. So in conducting every of the business that we do in Bangladesh today, we follow 5 sets of very clear values. One is leadership, the kind of leadership that was mentioned by Dalton bhai a little while ago. Integrity, and I completely agree with him, integrity is being true to your word. Integrity is not morality. Respect, being respectful to every one of your colleagues that you in your workplace. Cooperation, so that you share and don't write an email next to the person who's sitting next to you. And innovation, and that is why, I think that is perhaps something that we follow very rigorously. Trying to do things that is not being done in a conventional manner. We have confidence has been, I think we made the first private sector cement company in Bangladesh. We have made the first 132 kV steel poles in Bangladesh. We have made the first 132 kV steel towers in Bangladesh. We have made many things that we have done in this has happened for the first time in the country. So we have never been shy in taking a risk. That is how we do business, that is how we conduct business. And perhaps primarily that comes because we are young. And in congruence with the country and with the people that I see here today is that the Bangladesh and you guys who are here, who are young, should not be afraid of taking any risk. Because the opportunity is endless. You will make mistakes. But that should not impede you from thinking the way you should think. Thank you, and I'll end there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Imran Karim, the Group Managing Director, Confidence Group. Now, I mean, we also, like to tell you that each and every member of this profession, they maintain 5 core ethical values. I mean, integrity is one, certainly confidentiality, objectivity, professional competence and due care, and professional behavior. That is mandated by the IPAC. That is called International Federation of Accountants. So now, I'm just request our president to hand over the crest. Okay, hand over the crest to our chief guest, Mr. Imran Karim, the Group Managing Director, Confidence Group. And also a token gift for remembrance to our chief guest. I also now request our president to hand over the crest to the today's resource person, Mr. John Dalton. And also a token gift for remembrance to Mr. Dalton. So we are extremely happy today for the wonderful program, and also we now I request our secretary of the institute, Mr. MD Abdul Rahman Khan,
Just 1 minute,
for a
Munida.
vote of thanks.
No, Munida, we will have Q&A session. Before that, our chief guest, Mr. Imran Karim, has got actually some urgent family issues, so he actually wanted to leave much earlier, but we requested him to stay up to this point. So we thank him for coming and taking his time and giving this inspirational speech here. So once Mr. Imran Karim leaves, then we'll have Q&A session, and then we'll close the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Imran Karim. We will expect in the future that you will come here again and talk to our members. So now this session is open for the question and answers. I'm sorry, extremely sorry for that. This floor is open for question and answers. You just come to the, okay. Just tell your name as well as some.
Thank you.
You know, then, okay,
Actually,
thank
I am shivering in cold because there is no heat in my body, and I didn't hear any blazer. Okay, thank you very much. I am Selim Reza, fellow member of this institute, and now I am working in Paragon Group as a head of corporate accounting. I have one question to our resource person. Undoubtedly, today's subject matter is very interesting, and we learned many things from presentation. We everybody know that, and everybody will be agree with me that in our workplace, not only we have followers, but we have a lot of upper level management, and in our workplace, so we are to lead followers as well as our upper level management. So my question, before question, we know that it is very much easy to lead followers than upper level management. So my question to our honorable resource person is how a transformational leader will lead up. How a transformational leader will lead up. Thank you very much.
Any other question? John, please sit down. Take the question first.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anyone?
Hello, my name is Mutin. I am former chairman BIWTC. In your deliberation, you were talking about integrity. May I ask you one thing? This integrity word, is it absent in USA now? Because money stolen from Reserve Bank, it has gone to 4 commercial banks of USA. And these 4 commercial banks, they are not cooperating with our agency. This is number one. Number two, I am a transformational leader. I am retired for the last 14 years. But as a transformational leader, I could not transform everybody of my corporation. And it is not humanly possible anywhere in the world because there are different groups. There are different groups in an organization. You cannot transform all, even you have some magic. How can you do that? Thank you.
I think, John, what you can do after every question, you can give the reply so that we can memorize the questions and you can reply. Easier. So every question you reply and then another question.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So I've got 3 on my plate. Can I get quick answers to those 3 questions? Okay. The lead from below question. How do you, in an organization, lead from below. And I suggested that what you can do is, if you know the specific details, and I'm sure you do, of your specific unit, what you try to do is to create knowledge by senior management about what it is you're trying to accomplish in terms of service standards, quality of output, accelerated production of information. You've done some assessment about the potential for use of technology to improve performance. You've tried to introduce as a internal practice something which can be used as a model for the rest of the organization. And that instead of trying to figure out, okay, how do I affect everybody, you try to get someone to buy into your little cocoon of success in order that the whole organization can be affected. You become the model. You don't take on the whole structure. You don't try to accomplish the whole thing. You try to create these little islands of integrity, islands of accomplishment, and in the end, it becomes an archipelago that can have a substantial change. You also need to get buy-in from senior management at some point about anything you try to do. And if you don't have that access, if you're in an organization where the leader and the followers are separated, this is a very difficult undertaking. But if you're the leader of a small enough group, 8 to 10 people, you can have a profound effect on the way they work with you to achieve some results. Okay? Second, the issue of integrity. As I understand it, the only bank in the United States which has been involved in this transaction is the United States Fed. That all the banks you're talking about are in the Philippines. Rizal Commercial Bank is in the Philippines. Hong Kong Charter Bank is in the Philippines. So I think your Asian neighbors probably have more to say about the lack of integrity than American banks. But nonetheless, I feel very, very unhappy that somebody was able to take $100 million from the central bank in any way at all. So, but I think that would be a good systems integrity question. You know, I believe that some people have accepted responsibility for the lack of systems integrity in the country that allowed this window of opportunity to present itself to people who wanted to do damage to Bangladesh. This is not something which was done only, but for that window, this could not have occurred. So there was a systems integrity flaw that the investigators will figure out, they'll look at it. In the end, you get your money back, I'm sure. You're not going to get it from the U.S. Fed, but somebody is going to investigate, find the perpetrators. This is not the first time that Rizal Bank has been involved in some shady dealings, as you maybe know. So I'm sorry about that. But I also now want to answer one of your last question, the third question.
It is not Rizal Bank. It is 4 commercial banks of USA. From Reserve Bank, it went to 4 accounts of 4 commercial banks from USA. And these 4 commercial banks...
That's not my understanding. My understanding was that the Rizal Bank converted that money into poker chips. The poker chips was by PagCor, the company which manages the casinos it's a very, very clever thing. You take the money, you buy chips, you convert chips to dollars, you take the dollars to Hong Kong. Goodbye. Very clever. But total lack of integrity. Now, the other point you made, if I can say, let me just say that while your point is you cannot affect every person in the organization, and I'm sure that our colleague would say, well, I don't have direct contact with 4,500 employees, but he does have the cascade effect of being able to make sure his managers understand that he values transformation as a methodology for management and leadership, and that these people respond to that signal. If the signal from the top is that I want to see people engaged in a transformational process, the middle managers, the lower managers will become engaged in that process. But I would only say that, never make excellent the enemy of good. Progress can be achieved without having 100% buy-in from all employees. And so I think you want to try to, small gains, as many wins as you can, and see if the organization can be transformed as the individuals are transformed. So, another question?
Yeah, next question, please.
Raise your question, and one by one, I would request John Dalton to answer
One
those
by one?
questions.
Yeah, I think that's better.
John, I have a question.
Uh-oh.
So if you can stand up.
I've been down this route before.
No, I mean, if you stand up here, then I can see you.
That's why I'm sitting. I don't see you.
I mean, the question is, I mean, from your discussion and discussion from the chief guest as also the president, that transformational leadership and the change management we found that it's correlated. But my question is this: what is basically the difference between transformational leadership and inclusive leadership?
Well, inclusion is one of the characteristics of getting everybody involved in the same venture. So inclusion is a characteristic of transformation. So that you would make sure that as a transformational management, as I said, I included the T-boy in the success. He was as important as the director of capacity development, if you get my point.
Thank you. Any other question, please? I know you have a lot of questions, but if you don't have, then I have another question. I mean that question is in Bangladesh, you know, there is a relationship with the turnover or employee retention.
Good point.
I mean, when my friends or colleagues or, you know, senior member, junior members, when they, you know, leave the organization, when we ask that why you are leaving or why you left your organization, they tell that there is no corporate culture in that organization. So is there any link between the corporate culture and the transformational leadership?
Absolutely. One of the goals of a transformational leader is to change the culture. It's also to make sure that in the culture you eliminate these glass ceilings that prevent women from advancing, for example. That you break down these barriers that make people feel as if they're in a box. Think outside the box, our colleagues told us, okay? And one of the things that I mentioned earlier, Mooney, that's important is that the transformational leader has to make people feel that he's committed to them. He wants you to be trained because he wants you to grow. Now, many times you need to be able to come back and apply that lesson. A transformational leader will make sure you're given that opportunity. And that's why in the little exercise we had before, the woman who was there for 20 years, that man knew her name, knew what she was doing, knew what her job was. She was included in all of the things that were necessary to be done. And the typical traditional leader was like, well, I don't know why would I know her name? That's the difference. Inclusion is making sure that people feel as if they're part of something bigger, some venture that they are part of contributing to its success. Inclusion is a word that's part of transformational methodology.
Anything?
My name is Mohammed Mamunur Rashid.
Hello, Mohammed.
My main question is, what are the main challenges of implementation of all over the organization to implement transformational leadership? What are the main challenges?
Well, you know, the main challenge is not trying to use transformational management in a situation where it doesn't fit. Is that transformation has to be an accepted practice. You can't force transformation on people. You may, for example, cost and management accountants go into a situation where things are very stable and set, things are working well. Transformation may not be the appropriate methodology to use because it would lead to upheaval. It also means you have to have buy-in. We talked about how can you get transformation. If you don't have top management buy-in, if I'm the top manager, then I can promote transformation. And I can send signals down the organization that I want everybody to be inclusive, participatory, democratic. Everybody's given the same opportunity. I'll give you the general orders, but use your own innovation, use your creativity. You do your work. Do your job. I can do that. If I'm at the bottom and I'm trying to transform a single unit or work on a single problem, okay, I need to make sure that this is not seen by someone as as something which is being done contrary to the interests of the company. So you need to get buy-in. You need to make sure that if you want to engage in collaborative learning, transformation, you do so with the full knowledge and consent of the board and senior management. But I encourage you all to try, even on your own, to be open to the idea that even the person sitting next to you, that together you and she can be transformed mutually to accomplish a higher result. That coordination, collaboration, working together, that is in and of itself transformation. You don't have to transform the confidence group. You can transform your own little area into being more productive, having more integrity, giving people the same opportunity so that you can help everybody learn what you know. Yes, sir. Yes, Muhammad Rashid again.
Our corporate
Did that answer your question now, or was that just like...
Our corporate organization, the main problem is multiculturalism and diversification in many people, culture and other things. So how can it communicate so easily? Communicate.
Yeah.
Integration.
Well, he's asking a very interesting question. I was going to talk about multiculturalism, decided not to. But one of the things that, the good thing about transformational leadership is that it assumes a certain level of equality. It cuts through the multicultural problems so that everybody's engaged in something other than themselves. So people are not looking at their ethnicity, they're not looking at their religion, they're not looking at Barishal versus some other Shalet. They're not looking at these differences. They're looking at what's the commonality that binds them together. So transformational leadership is very, very useful in a multicultural setting. As Mr. Mooney will understand, we had on a project someone from Zimbabwe. We had an American. We had Bangladeshi. We're bringing in someone from England. We're bringing in someone from Nigeria. All of them can be engaged in the same venture because we understand how this transformation is going to be good for all of us. So we can commit to it. You break down these barriers, these identities, with transformational leadership approaches.
Okay, good evening to all. This is Mamun.
Good evening.
So I have two very small questions. Number one is, does one size fit it for all? As we know, there are different theories in the philosophy of the leadership. Does transformational leadership is fitted for every type of organization or every part of the organizations to make it more productive? And another aspect is that, as we know that, another very important aspect of the leadership is that to utilize the human resources as well as other resources of the organization, and to utilize in a way that to utilize appropriate resource in an appropriate manner. Particularly human behavior is also an important resource which is deal with the leadership approaches. So in this respect, how transformation leader can be appropriate to make sense to trade off between utilizing the appropriate person to assign appropriate task and to achieve the goal of the organization. Thank you very much.
Good. That's a very excellent question. His question is, well, is it one size fit all? Is it always like this? There's a cookie cutter approach to transformational management. You come in and you do one of these, you put some little salt and pepper in, stir it up, and then you have transformational management. The answer, of course, is no. As I said before, what you have to do is adapt your solution to what the situation is that you find. So when you come, you may find that it's actually much better to do traditional transaction-based management, transaction-based leadership, because this is an organization which is not ready for transformation. Or it's an organization which already has a culture of collaboration and collegiality, and so you don't want to disturb that. You don't want to introduce a new term. Things seem to be doing okay, but you now become some sort of a monitor to make sure that that cooperation, collegiality, collaboration continues. So you don't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's the key thing on that. The other thing is that, they're in a collaboration or a transformational leadership doesn't mean that you don't continue to assign work according to people's best capacity. that you do in fact make informed decisions about what's best for the good of the whole. Am I getting you the right way, the right question? Okay, so that even when you choose an individual person and I come and I say to you, listen, you're the best guy for this job, and the person next door thinks he's the best guy for the job, you do have to make some informed choices about how to advance the organizational interests to satisfy stockholders, to satisfy the public, to satisfy the government. Those decisions have to be made. Being transformational leadership, even though it's all based upon principles and values, doesn't mean you're weak. A transformational leader is not a weak leader. A transformational leader is willing to be open to all the people around him, but that takes a certain kind of strength, I think. I would argue that it actually, transformational leaders have to be stronger because they have to be willing to be the shield to protect their fellow employees.
John, can I add to his second question with you? Okay, thank you. Thing is this, no sustainable organization can be created by man or woman who are themselves imperfect. So in the whole resource stream, only human being is the living soul. The other resource, they don't have any living soul. So you have to, if you are imperfect, then everything will be imperfect. So key is with you. So when you really want to start transformation, you have to start from the gatekeeper. He mentioned in his speech, Iqbal, he just bring tea for all of us. But the day one, he told that Iqbal is the most important person in the whole office. So the other level immediately got the message. That is the thing. I mean, how leader really start the journey, that is basically the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Muni. I hope you all get a chance to meet and talk to Muni in your life. He is an extremely spiritual, extremely interesting man. I commend him to you. He's a national treasure. Now, I learned the secret while I was sitting down. I learned the secret. I'm going to try this out, okay? The secret is that if you want to get applause, you say, cost and management accounts. No? Everybody else got applause when he said cost and management accounts.
I think, Arif, just 1 minute. There are two professions, competing profession in Bangladesh. One is chartered accountants and another is cost and management accountants. From my experience, I have seen that cost and management accountants, they are the creative accountants, they are the value for money accountants, so they are in a better position to become a transformational leader. That message I can give it to you.
I'll try that approach. Cost and management accountants are the greatest people in the world. Now I got it. Any more question? Another question? How about one of the young students?
Any question from the students? Any question?
There he goes. Go ahead.
আপনি বাংলায় বলতে পারেন, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, আমরা ওটা ট্রান্সলেট করে দিব।
Good evening, everyone. I am MD Delwar Hussain. I am a student of ICMAB. Most of the the person who are questioning our guest may working in an organization, but we are a fresher. So I have a question to our guest is that how will you correlate the training and the orientation of a new employed worker to your organization about your the management style, transformation, leadership?
Okay. Well, I think the question that's a good question. How do young people come into an organization and fit into the culture, and how do they participate immediately in some sort of a transformation effort if it's there? And I think you heard our colleague, the resource person, if you were here. There's a steady flow of people coming from this group going into his group. And the reason is he's creating opportunities for interns, for young professionals, for people to come in and be assimilated into a culture that he's created for transformation. As he said, he thinks out of the box. He is a transformational leader. He wants to make things better. So if you were to seek out companies where the leaders have a expressed position for willing to transform the company for the good of the Bangladeshi economy, seek out those companies. You'll find a willing colleagues who will absorb you very happily into you being part of the culture of moving ahead. I know you don't have that choice because you're looking for a job, you probably take any job that comes along. But the fact is that even if you go into a very rigid, tight situation, you can begin to talk to the person next to you. What about transformation? How can we be more collegial? How can we work together more effectively? Can we put together service standards or internal standards? Timing of the quarterly reports, the balance sheets, all those kind of things. Can we do a better job? Always ask yourself and ask your colleagues, hey, can we do a better job? How can we do a better job? That's part of transformation. You know? How can we do a better job?
Any question, please?
Munida, may I ask one question?
Oh, please.
Yeah. John, what happens in certain cases, a lot of our young members who are working in different organizations, as you said, their top bosses may not buy in this kind of transformational leadership concept. They are in many cases dictators, and they do not consult with our accounting department or finance people in taking a lot of decisions. And I have seen, because I worked in 6-7 different organizations, this happens in the local culture.
Sure.
If not every case, but there are a good number of cases. And as a young professional, then we are frustrated that how can we pass through to my boss because he's taking all decisions based on his own understanding.
Right.
In that kind of scenario, how this transformational leadership course can help us to change his mindset? What should we do to change his mindset to some extent so that the organization slowly becomes different? Or if we cannot change his mind, can we do something on our own? At least we try to change our small 2-3 people in the organization. And somebody may say that if we change 2-3 people in the organization, it doesn't make sense because boss is not following anything. So do you think that small changes within our small group can help me as a professional to grow in life, to learn this transformational leadership, even if I know my boss is not following that, but I practice it in a small scale, and what is the relevant that with this small practice I can go up in life further?
I think that was the top. That's a good question, of course. He's the president. I think it is worth the effort in even a traditional tight organization. Once you have been exposed to the idea that transformational leadership and transformational management and inclusion and democracy and participation are values that you bring into the workplace, respect, integrity, that you can practice transformation on the smallest of possible scales, including just yourself. I mean, I hope that people would think about when they go to their work tomorrow, how can I do a better job? How can I transform? Have I thought about how I can have more integrity? I can demonstrate that integrity. How can I do what I say? Stephen Jobs said, you walk the talk. Stephen Covey says, you walk the talk. That means that you're true to your word. If you say you'll do it, you'll do it. So even just keeping your own promises to yourself, okay? Doing your job with excellence and trying to influence your colleagues in the same way. There are very autocratic leaders in every country. That's part of the culture. But you don't try to change the whole organization. You try to change yourself and influence your colleagues and try to have a spread effect so that over time something better will happen. And you can also talk to the owner's son. So he may be the next generation. Try to influence the next generation.
John, can I add with you? That is, I worked with a US consultant. He's also a great man. In his room, there is a big poster, always over his head. That is, what is the 4 lines? It is, you cannot be what you want to be. Being what you are, change is required. The question is this: transformational leadership in theory is fine, but it assumes something should be on, in the organization. That is, you need core values in place, you need vision and mission of the organization, you need strategies, you need, work plans or annual plans or strategic plans. Without this, you cannot really practice transformational leadership. That is my understanding. I don't know what is yours.
Well, I think that's if you have a leader that's willing to do that, that's perfect. If you're not, you have to be true to your own values. You're not coming into a company totally devoid of values, and you're not willing to accept values which are not consistent with your own beliefs. If you're working in a company and those values are difficult for you to live with, then I think you have to either try to influence the value system, influence the culture, or I think you have to look for another job. Last question here.
Maybe last two questions because we have time limitations.
Yeah.
So maybe last two questions.
I have a question. Are there have any risks associated with the transformational leadership? Any risks associated with the transformational leadership?
Many. And part of the quality of a transformational leadership is understanding that there are risks and willing to take those risks on behalf of the greater good, knowing that this may not succeed, that everybody will not advance at the same pace, that there will be people. There was resistance by one group, one individual, that tried to find a way to undermine the transformation process. It became necessary actually to marginalize that person initially, and then necessary to remove that person from the process altogether, because his negativism was affecting the transformation process itself and preventing us from achieving our core values. So the risks are also that, as I said before, you can't be an island of transformation in a sea of stupidity. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, John. Okay, I think John, please, thank you for very, very much for your wonderful deliberation. Give a big hand to him. Now it is the time for our secretary, Abdul Rahman Khan. I request him to give a vote of thanks. Thank you.
President ICMAB, past President.
I request everybody to stay, because normally whenever vote of thanks comes, we tend to leave. It is very painful for the person who comes for saying the vote of thanks. Just wait for 2 minutes time. I'm sure that he will shorten the speech.
I would like to assure that I will not take long. Today's resource person, Mr. John Dalton. Unfortunately, we do not have our chief guest here with us, but I'd like to thank resource person for his very interactive and wonderful presentation. I believe we all have enjoyed his delivery this evening. Although our chief guest is not here, but we know that he is a very busy person. On behalf of our institute and all members, I'd like to thank Mr. Imran Karim, our chief guest today, and very special thanks to our honorable members and students. We are really very encouraged to see the full auditorium this evening. If our members and students participate in such a way, this will encourage the council and the management of this institute to arrange more and more resourceful program like this. Finally, I'd like to thank our management for taking very special arrangement. You know that Mr. President has declared that today our members are watching this program live from wherever they are sitting. I spoke with, in fact I didn't spoke, but I sent messages to our Khulna branch councils. Most of the members, they have enjoyed this, still they are enjoying this live program from Khulna and also from Chittagong. And this has been done by our management, and they are doing very hard work. Thank you very much, our management, for arranging such a wonderful program this evening. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahman. I mean, of course, this is the end of the program, but the students, please you will stay here for refreshment, and the members in the first floor. So thank you all.